Commissioner Garcia, the current political climate in Washington and in many places across this country has turned political opponents into almost enemies. What would you do to restore some civility to Congress?
There is too much money, big money in politics. It is corrupting politics, it is corrupting government, it is accelerating partisanship in Washington, D.C. and state capitals like Springfield like never before. I worked in Springfield at a time when Democrats were in the minority, in the House and the Senate, every constitutional office in Illinois. Yet I was able to pass bipartisan legislation during that time, collaborating with Republicans, reaching across the aisle and being successful. This is the type of bipartisanship, creating space in the middle of the aisle that is necessary in Washington. I believe that after this election cycle and the 2020 election cycle, we will be successful in creating more of that type of collaborative legislation in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez.
If I was in Congress, the first word that I would talk to my fellow congressmen or senators would be collaboration. People today are putting party before the interests of the people of the United States, and that's a shame. And I understand that everyone has their own ideology, and you should protect your ideology and fight for your ideology, but at the end of the day, it's the people that matter most. I think that most Americans would agree that if we just all entered into a spirit of engagement, of collaboration and cooperation, as opposed to blinding yourself to issues that perhaps do not make sense, Congress would be able to work much better regardless if you're a Democrat or a Republican. So we need collaboration.
Thank you. Ms. Flores.
I have experience in working with young people and families and going to the state capitol, in going to Washington, D.C., to Capitol Hill, and sharing their stories. Once people can look someone in the eye and understand that I am you and you are me, and we have a shared experience, then we can put down our guards and we can begin to understand how we work together. For the last 15 years, I have had to work across the aisle with people from different perspectives to come together and provide resources and make a difference. I've been a facilitator, I've been a bridge builder, I've been a negotiator, and I've done it with grace, dignity, and respect. And that has allowed people to come to the table, open up, try to understand what the issues are, and then work together to get something done.
Thank you. Sergeant Gonzalez, as you know, the Obamacare mandate was eliminated with the passing of the Trump administration's tax bill. Now, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that by 2027, 13 million people will be without insurance. So tell us your plan to protect the residents of the 4th District and make sure they have health care.
Obamacare today is being threatened, Obamacare as we call it, is being threatened to be eliminated. And although I do agree with the concept of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, the issue that I see with Obamacare is that it's not affordable. I have children and friends who participate in the program, and it's probably the best program we have currently. What we need to work on is figuring out how to make it affordable. And that's the only issue that I have with the Obamacare. So we're really going to have to sit down and figure out what will it take to make Obamacare affordable.
Ms. Flores?
I've seen when young people don't have access to health care and what happens, the opportunities that they lose. I've seen when mothers can't provide for their children because, again, they don't have access to health care. And then I've seen what can happen when people are supported, when they have behavioral health care, when they have opportunity to recovery services. They can have life that thrives because they can go to school, they can keep a job, they can have strong social, emotional supports with their family members. So when I get to Washington, D.C., I'm going to do what I have been doing. I'm going to fight for young people and families. I'm going to make sure we preserve affordable health care, and I'm an absolute supporter of Medicare for all. Housing along with health care is an absolute human right, and I will fight for that in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
The tax bill that was approved on a strictly partisan vote in Congress provided a tax break for the 1%. They get 80% of all the benefit of that tax bill. 2, doing away with the individual mandate was terrible for the risk pool in Obamacare. when you take the healthiest people out of that risk pool, you place everyone else at risk. It was a bad move. The only solution moving forward in our country is to create a single-payer Medicare for all system, the type that Bernie Sanders has been championing for the past 2 years. I will support it. I will fight for it. It's the only way out. It's the only way to protect our public health systems and ensure security for all with respect to health care.
We have one more question, and then we'll be taking some questions either through Facebook or through text. So again, if you want to text, please do so, and send your questions in via Facebook, and they'll be relayed to us. We begin with you, Mr. Gonzalez. People always talk about looking ahead towards the end. So if you are elected to Congress, what would you want your legacy to be?
I think I would like the residents of the 4th Congressional District to see me as the congressman that was a congressman for all. To see me as a congressman that was not just a single issue congressman, that did not look at race or gender, a congressman who sat down and had town hall meetings and wanted to find out what exactly is that matters to the residents of the 4th Congressional District. Let's remember that a congressman's job is not to govern. It's to represent the constituents of the district. It's to figure out what they need and then go to Washington and fight hard to ensure that those resources that you folks decide you need are brought back to Chicago. That has been abandoned in the last 25 years here in the 4th Congressional District.
Thank you, Ms. Flores.
I told you a few minutes ago that my values were love and justice. I love people, and I believe in doing what's right and what's just. And so I want my legacy and what people of the 4th District to remember me by is that I got used up. That the talents that I have, that God gave me, that my family helped to instill in me and cultivate, got used for good. And I've been doing that for the last 15 years. And if you talk to anybody who's worked with me, they'll tell you how I did it. I listened to them, I respected them, I treated them with dignity, with grace, and then I turned around and I worked my butt off for them. And I promise you, that's what I'm gonna do when I go to Washington, D.C., and I'm gonna be proud of that. And the day I die, I know I got used up for good.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
When elected congressman, I want to be remembered as one of those new members of Congress who attacked the causes of inequality in our country. Someone who helped to bring shared prosperity to everyone, not just in the 4th District, but across the country. Someone who was embracing, someone who was accountable, someone who conducted himself with the greatest ethics, and someone who was in the community when needed, someone who consulted, and someone who made a mark on bringing people together. That has been my history as a public servant. It will continue as a member of Congress if I am elected.